the Dog Daddy. We give praise to the Dog Daddy. The Beast, the Beast, the Bull, the Bull, Mortos, Mortos. Your darkness is our strength. Your face is our flame. We give praise to the Dark Daddy.
Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, and Mark Out. I'm Blade Daly, and I'm joined today by my super homie, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, Joshi G. Joshi G, how you doing?
Praise be.
Praise be.
Praise be. I'm doing pretty good. I've been reading the book 1984.
Oh, shit.
It's so damn messed up. Have you read it, Blade Daily? I'm sure you have.
I've read it many times, in fact. It was one of the most influential books I read as a young Blade Daily. But yeah, Winston, that dude got a raw deal.
Holy crap, yeah.
Is this your first time reading it?
It's my first time reading it. I've heard so many great things about it, so I said, you know what? I'm going to read this book. So still in the early phase of it, but it's just so messed up but great. So I've been reading that. I've been watching Daria.
Nice.
Do you remember that show from when we were kids?
Yeah. How'd the theme song go? Like that?
It's like you're standing on my neck.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. So for some reason, I started getting into that again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And besides that, like, been pretty busy on my end, so I haven't been able to watch as many shows as I'd like to. But you know, whatever. It's going to be like rainy all weekend. So, I mean, I'll have time to catch up on stuff.
Nice.
How about you, man?
I have been reading X-Men like a motherfucker again.
Oh.
And it is way better now that I'm in the Chris Claremont era. Super, super good. Way ahead of its time. You know, this huge reading list, which go into our old episodes. There's a link to the reading list in there that I'm reading right now. It makes you read like all these side issues, you know, Power Man and Iron Fist and all these other, you know, Avengers. I gotta say, Avengers from the 70s, not very good.
Not feeling it.
It just doesn't hold up. They're not a real team. They're just like a bunch of individuals who are part of a team, you know, and you know, it kind of shows you very clearly why the X-Men are so much better. But been doing that, been volunteering for a political campaign, been, you know, making calls, getting out, talking to people with this charming voice. So that's been fun. We want to start the show with a little remembrance of the Taskmaster himself, Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan passed away this morning, August 9th, Friday, August 9th, and was a huge part of the wrestling business in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, head booker of WCW at various different times. He created a gimmick that was basically a satanic gimmick that started in Florida as the main adversary of Dusty Rhodes with Mark Lewin and some other really prominent talents, and carried that forward. He also was the Taskmaster, which was a part of the Dungeon of Doom which was one of the wrestle crap gimmicks of all time, the Dungeon of Doom. But, he created this gimmick that was kind of brought like cults and horror movies into pro wrestling that no doubt paved the way for gimmicks like The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, Waylon Mercy, Kane, Abyss, Cactus Jack, Mankind, any of those gimmicks that you can think of owe some debt of gratitude to Kevin Sullivan. So RIP, man. Big loss.
Rest in peace, Kevin, and thank you for everything you did for professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have nothing but respect for the legacy you leave behind, sir. And we would all be wise to pay tribute to the veterans of this business that really created a lot of joy for us all. Switching gears. We got a lot to talk about today, Joshi G.
Yes, we do.
One, we have officially started a Mortos cult. And we'd like you to join. So, we give praise to the Dark Daddy. Just give praise. Give praise. That's all we want you to do. But yeah, change your profile picture to Beast Mortos. Give praise on Threads or whatever other social media you use, and tag us.
Yeah, and get on your hands and knees and pray.
Absolutely. If you want to maybe sing this hymn on you that we open the show with on your own social media feed, just tag us and let us know.
Yes, please.
And if you don't, hey, no judgment. We're just judging you. But real quick, we're going to talk about Dynamite real fast here and the happenings of Dynamite. And then we're going to move on to some other issues, AEW-related issues. I really liked MJF versus Kyle Fletcher this week. Fantastic match. Kyle Fletcher, guys, this dude's the truth. He is 7 years younger than Will Ospreay. Just think of who Will Ospreay was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, that's how good Kyle Fletcher is, okay? He is going to be one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world when he's Will Ospreay's age. I guarantee it. I feel very confident of that. These two have very good chemistry. Fletcher kicked out of a ton of stuff and really just got screwed in the end by Don Callis, of all people. Don Callis runs down to the ring, throws a screwdriver in the ring. When has that ever won anyone a match? Don Callis, yet again, cost Kyle Fletcher big. MJF proceeds to brutalize Kyle after the match. And Will Ospreay runs to the ring. MJF runs from the ring. Building up to that program, keeping Fletcher and Callis and Ospreay connected for now. And that favor that Don said he would ask of Will seems like it's going to rear its ugly head at some point in the very near future. But Joshi, to me, this seems like the way that they're going to, they're showing you the bond between Kyle and Will. Mm-hmm. And that Will and Kyle are going to have to extricate themselves from the Callis family fairly soon. I'm not the only one who had this notion. I did see a few people mention it on Threads, but I was definitely thinking it myself, and you were thinking it too. Does it feel like there's maybe a potential uniting of MJF and Don Callis? Is that the vibe you're getting?
Absolutely. I think they're working together, and it will be revealed soon enough, maybe in the next few weeks. And I think that the Don Callis family needs to stop taking the screwdriver from Don, because this is always the freaking result. They don't use it, and then they end up getting screwed over. So just a pattern I've noticed, like with Ospreay and now with Fletcher. But like you were saying, Fletcher is such an amazing wrestler. I can't even imagine like how amazing he will be in 7 years from now. MJF and Fletcher had a lot of chemistry. It was my match of the night for sure. What a great way to open the show. Yeah.
Well, I could see the benefit of MJF with Callis. We were talking about, it's not like MJF needs a mouthpiece.
No.
But when Callis managed Kenny cut a lot of promos on his own, or Callis would say something very short at the very beginning. I think that would also give some structure to the Don Callis family, which has been kind of this way station of people they don't know what to do with. Hasn't really benefited anyone. And I'm not going to blame Don Callis for that. Some people do, and I think that's
Yeah.
really, really ridiculous. They are not featured on TV consistently enough. Roosh has now joined the Don Callis family, and you'd barely know it.
Right.
You know, obviously Hobbs is injured. There's not much you can do about that. When he comes back, does he really need to be a part of the Don Callis family? Trent is injured just after joining the Don Callis family and what appeared to be a big push he was about to get. So, you know, there's nothing you can do about that, but would love to see what they do with an MJF-led Don Callis family, because I think that's where you could start providing some real structure for that. You could still keep Roosh, who seems like he should be the leader of what he's doing, but you could either have him and MJF. You know, Roosh is like the guy who's going after the international title while MJF's going after the world title kind of thing. But what happens to Takeshita then? You know, so you got to figure that stuff out. But maybe it just makes sense for Don Callis just to manage MJF and be done with the Don Callis family. You know, who knows? We'll see where it goes. I'm not the booker. I'm certainly not known for being a booker. Mariah May beat Viva Van in pretty convincing fashion. We're both big Viva Van fans.
She's great.
Would have loved to see her get a little more offense, as we were talking about off the air. But, you know, Mariah May needs to look strong right now, and she sure did. My God, this woman is vicious. She is tough as hell. Mariah May, loving everything she's doing right now. Love the glamour as a gimmick. I thought it was cool that she came out as Tony one time and is now firmly establishing herself as herself, and loved the post-match. You know, you saw why this match was a squash, because Mariah gets a gift handed to her by one of the crew, and it's gift wrapped, and it turns out to be a, you know, picture of a giant picture of Tony with Mariah tucked into her bosom like the old days, and Mariah holds it up, and we're seeing the back of it, which says, "Die Mariah die," or if you're a Simpsons fan, D Mariah D. Then as she lowers it, she sees one of the crew members, who we quickly realize is not a crew member. It is the one and the only Timeless Tony Storm, who is I'm really enjoying this kind of like dark Tony Storm thing where she's just dressed in black with the crazy eyebrows. And Tony and Mariah, what I love about this that they're doing right now, and they did this on Collision too, is Mariah's not a chicken shit. She hates Tony and she wants to fight her. And that makes this feel better to me. Okay? Like for instance, if Mariah at some point down the road turns babyface again, what I always found unrealistic as a viewer was when a chicken shit heel turns babyface and then all of a sudden they're not afraid anymore. And then when they turn heel again, they're afraid again. I don't think, you know, everybody needs to be a tough heel, but I like Mariah as a tough heel because the way she wrestles, she's not a coward. She's tough as hell. You know, if Aminata ever turns heel, she shouldn't be, you know, a chicken shit. She should be tough. Any thoughts on this, Joshi?
I agree with you. I like the fact that Mariah doesn't run away. She just wants to kick Tony's ass. I'm not saying that always has to be the case, but for this feud, it does make sense. The one thing I will say about this feud, though, and I've noticed a couple of people brought this up online, is that because this feud, this rivalry is so great right now, and it's clearly the best part of the women's division right now, I do think they need to do something a little bit more with the Chris Statlander-Willow rivalry. Not that it's bad or anything like that, but I feel it's lost some steam. So I guess it's because right now you have, if you look at the most important feud in the women's division, it would be Tony Storm, Mariah May. I mean, they've been telling the story for almost a year.
Right.
Then the second one would be Mercedes Moné, Britt Baker. And then third, Willow, Chris. It just feels like, like the Willow Chris rivalry is not as hot as it was when it first started. So I don't know what they could do to get that back on track. Like I also feel the same way about Deonna Thunder Rosa. Love them both. But at this point, this will be like what, the fourth, fifth match or something like that.
Fifth
yeah,
match.
and Rosa has lost every single match.
She won the first match. She beat her.
She
the
did
first
win.
time.
Yeah, you're right. She did win the first.
So
Right,
Deanna's
that's true.
3-1 against her. She's beat her 3 times in a row.
True.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about their first match.
Yeah.
So, and I think that because Chris lost like a couple of matches against Chris, and also there was that tag match at Forbidden Door with Chris and Momo versus Willow and Tam. You know, Chris lost, right? Well, her team lost. It's just that, like, I don't think they should do this anymore, where the baby face is, you know, or the heel wins week after week after week, and then the heel or whatever,
The other person in the feud.
the other person in the feud is, just picks up a victory. And that's like, oh, well, we got to continue this feud now. Well, no, I think it should be a more even. That's why the Mariah Tony feud is working so well. They haven't wrestled each other yet, which is good, because you want to just see them get their hands on each other. And we will see that at All In. By doing that, it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. You know, it doesn't feel like, oh, one of them has like the upper hand at this point, you know? I don't know. Do you feel that way? I just feel like when it comes to those two rivalries, I don't know, man. Like, they got to figure something out to make them regain that spark.
Yeah, I think that what I've perceived is that they're trying to keep it on TV somehow while keeping it on ice to a degree, because they still have to do something for All Out.
Right? That's true.
You know, you got All Out in Chicago, which is, I believe, what, a week after or 2 weeks after?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
All In. And so you've got to have something cooking for All Out. You know, it's a problem of their own making. I will say that, obviously. But, you know, you kind of got to know where things are going, because All In, you know, every major title is being defended at All In. And so, you know, the problem is every match is contingent on who wins those title matches. So it's kind of a tricky scenario.
But I blame Daly. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen Rosa and Diana in a tag match against each other?
Never.
That would have been a good compromise. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Instead of just doing like, 5 singles matches, there are other ways to keep this feud going. Because it's true. Like, when I watched Rosa's match on Collision against Taya Valkyrie, after she won and challenged Diana's like, well, I beat you 3 times. It's true. It's like, why are we continuing?
Right.
From a logical perspective, I love both women. Of course, I want to see it continue. But I feel like they could have had some tag matches in between.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe had 3 matches instead at this point, or I don't know, you know. But just something that I've noticed, whereas when it comes to Mariah Tony, they've really done an excellent job in keeping that one interesting.
You know, it's great to see that there's more than one women's feud at a time.
For sure.
And I agree with you that they're very limited in how they present women. You know, it's almost always singles matches, and you know, you almost never see a triple threat or a 4-way match. You almost never see tag matches. It's something that's kind of weird and kind of sorely lacking still in the women's division that they need to improve. And speaking of tag teams, we got a lot more to talk about with tag teams later in the show today. But one tag team that joined a singles wrestler for this card that made a surprisingly great trio was FTR joining Orange Cassidy. These guys worked really well together.
They did.
And I think this was thrown together because of the travel issues people were having getting to the show. I think it was originally probably going to be like Ishii and Mark Briscoe, or Ishii and Kyle Fletcher. Or not Kyle Fletcher, Kyle O'Reilly.
Kyle O'Reilly.
So these guys had a really fun match. And who did they have it with? With Roddy Strong, with Roosh, and with the Doc Daddy.
Praise be.
Praise be, baby. To the Dog Daddy Beast Mortos, who has been on basically every AEW show besides maybe Rampage for the last like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes,
Mortos is a workhorse right now. I think it's a sign that Tony Khan's really believing in this guy, and he's hearing us. Beast Mortos is the truth, baby. You got to keep pushing this guy because he delivers every single time. Had a great match. I was shocked to see Roosh take the pin, though.
I was too.
Honestly, I thought it made more sense for Roddy Strong to take the pin than it did for Mortos, or than it did for Roosh. Roosh needs to be built up right now, guys. Like, what's going on?
That was a weird decision.
Hangman gave another terrifying interview where he vowed vengeance against Swerve. Hangman's real scary right now.
Is he going to cost Swerve the belt at All In?
Kind of seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, eh?
Kind of seems that way. I've seen another theory floated that Moxley might cost Danielson the match, which would be another interesting take on it, but I don't think that's where they're going.
Me neither.
No, I don't think that's where they're going. I think Danielson's going to win at All In. I don't need Hangman to cost Swerve the match.
Same.
It would make sense in a way. Danielson may want it to happen that way because I think we're starting to see that Danielson's getting more limited in the ring. Not that he's not having great matches. He is. But it's weird because he's clearly being more careful in the ring. And
he is.
I know that he's trying to stay healthy for All In. That's just not his style. Being careful is not Bryan Danielson's style. Never has been. But he's been saying it, guys, and I don't think it's kayfabe. You know, he has some things he's working around. As we'll get to, he is a little more limited. But yeah, I think Hangman very possibly, you know, you don't deserve this. You shouldn't have this. He costs Swerve the match. Danielson wins. And it leads to a rematch, is what I think.
All Out, maybe Hangman Page Swerve at All Out.
I think that's what you could get, is Hangman and Swerve at All Out, and then a rematch for Danielson and Swerve at Wrestle Dream.
Yeah. Me too. Woohoo!
Right.
You're going. Yes.
Fuck yeah, I am. So yes, Hangman gives another terrifying interview. Love, rage-filled, insane Hangman. Camille killed 2 jobbers in a handicap match. You don't see handicap matches almost ever in AEW. I believe there has been 1 or 2 others, but, you know, Lance Archer, somebody like that. Camille looked real good here.
She did.
Good God, I didn't realize she was from North Carolina. She crushed some jobbers who looked like they knew they were going to be crushed. They did not look super enthusiastic to be fighting her, and rightfully so, because she killed them. She took their lives. It was very ugly. And then, you know, Tony, Mercedes starts cutting a promo. She's very proud of her protege, Camille, and cuts a promo saying as much and saying that, you know, she's so happy that her EVPs have suspended Britt Baker until Tony Schiavone interrupts her and lets her know that Britt Baker is no longer under suspension and will be back next week, and that she was available by satellite. Britt then cuts a promo by satellite, which to me was really not a big deal and was kind of just, you know, I'll be back, DMD, blah, blah, blah. Mercedes actually did a very good job reacting to it, though, and made it more amusing for that reason. I think Mercedes has been in a really tough spot having to carry this program solo for the last few weeks. I think that's very hard to do. Any thoughts on this, Joshi?
No comment on Britt right now. As for Mercedes, I think she's doing a really great job, and I'm looking forward to their match at All In.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a great match. It's going to be a lot of fun. These are the 2 biggest stars AEW has in the women's division, except for possibly Toni Storm, who I think is on Britt's level at least.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I collect the toys, and, you know, the last year and a half, and I think it's partly because Jazzwares, the company that makes these figures, has been pretty behind on getting these figures out. But the Timeless Toni Storm that they put up, the only 2 figures that have been back ordered even once this year on Ringside Collectibles have been Swerve and Timeless Toni Storm. And Jeff Hardy. People are just freaks about Jeff Hardy, and that's not a diss. They just are. Anyway, Timeless isn't coming out till November, and she is back ordered. So that's a pretty good indication that Toni Storm is pretty over. And then Bryan Danielson and Jeff Jarrett had a very fun main event. The idea was to get Bryan Danielson all in for his match with Swerve. And they had a no DQ match. Jarrett looked great. It is very hard to believe this man is 57 years old. His body is in great shape. They beat the tar out of each other. Jeff bumped around for Danielson quite a bit. Danielson looked great in the match himself. I think this was the perfect kind of garbage match. These matches seem brutal, but they actually allow you to protect yourself. And, Jeff has a reputation as a very safe worker. And I think that was probably why this match happened. See, like I said, Danielson is limiting himself in the ring right now because I'm sure he wants to keep himself in tip-top shape for All In London. And
of course.
God knows if he were to get injured right now, that'd be the worst possible thing. So fun match. Joshi, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a very fun match. I can't believe that Jarrett can still go. Incredible how good he is in the ring at his age. And as for Danielson, I agree. I think he's playing it very safe, but I don't blame him one bit. He missed All In last year, and I know that really bummed him out. So He wants to be there this year. This is his last year as a full-time wrestler, so he might not get this opportunity again. So absolutely good for him, playing it safe. Very excited for that main event. And I thought that Swerve coming out after that match, confronting Danielson, like his promo was so darn good. Swerve just keeps getting better and better and better. It's amazing to me. And actually, I Blade Daily, I think Swerve is superior to Ospreay on the mic right now. I'm not sure when this change happened, the shift, but my gosh.
I mean, I think they're neck and neck in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I mean, you got Swerve is now a main event promo guy. And when he had that first confrontation with Hangman a year ago almost, it was it was before Wrestle Dream, so it was almost a year ago. We all marked out hard, and Swerve had some great lines, but his delivery was not the greatest. Like, he did not seem super confident on a live mic in the middle of the ring. And to see him be here, I'm not surprised in a lot of ways because I've watched this man just continue to learn and grow and improve every single week for the last 3 years in AEW, but really for the last almost 10 years since I first saw him on the indies. This guy has been nothing but a guy who just tirelessly grows. So, yeah, I thought the promo on Danielson was awesome. And, him kind of taking pride in being the guy to end his career. Your legacy becomes my legacy when I beat you. That was great stuff. That was great stuff.
What a badass.
I know. Swerve, always my guy. But Swerve also says, hey, you got your tune-up match with Jeff Jarrett. I want one too. And how about I take on your boy, Wheeler Yuta? The only complaint, it's a small one that I have. I don't like anything being referred to with Wheeler Yuta as a tune-up. Wheeler Yuta deserves better than that. He is better than that. But, Swerve's trying to denigrate Yuta, and he's going to give him a lot in that match. Swerve's probably going to made to look a little foolish for calling him a tune-up, as I think that's the idea. So we'll see. But overall, I would say, solid 8 out of 10 episode, 7.5, 8 out of 10. It wasn't anything super duper special, but, they've got a pace on the build to All In.
For sure.
So this week on Dynamite, we know we get Claudio and Okada face to face, and we get Wheeler Yuta versus Swerve Strickland, and that's just what we know so far. So we'll see where they go from here. That show is taking place in Norfolk, Virginia, which is also the ceremonial hometown of Hangman Adam Page. So
Woohoo.
I assume something big will happen with Hangman. Maybe that becomes a triple threat. Who knows?
Maybe.
Hangman, Claudio, and Okada. I wouldn't complain about that either. So anyway, that was Dynamite. Solid show. Nothing to complain about here. I got what I wanted out of it.
Me too.
But we got two bigger issues, in my opinion, this week to talk about. Why don't we talk about the first one? So, this is somebody that we did talk about at the outset. Do you want to lead us off, Joshi G?
I do. Let's do this. So I think there is a little bit too much hate towards Mercedes Moné. I'm not saying that everyone that doesn't like her is one of these haters that I'm going to talk about right now. So please, if you don't like her because her wrestling is just not for you or her character is not for you, like, fine. That's not what I'll be talking about right now. But the hate that she gets is really excessive. I mean, she will post a picture on Instagram, and you have so many people calling her really nasty names and calling her Mercedes Hogan because she's making a lot of money, because she has some input in creative. And I don't understand this at all. So when it was announced a few years ago that Becky Lynch was the highest paid female wrestler, I didn't see this kind of anger towards Becky.
Nope.
It seemed like a lot of fans were really supportive of the fact that she was making a lot of money. However, in 2024, Mercedes is now the highest paid female wrestler in the world. Somehow, people have a problem with this. I started doing some thinking. What is the issue? How is it okay for Becky to make a lot of money, but it's not okay for Mercedes? Now, I thought of a couple of things. I think the fact, and this is just me guessing, I think the fact that Mercedes is a really strong and vocal person rubs people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not talking about all men, but I know some of them do not like women that are really tough. I think that's unfortunate, but it's a part of reality.
I think she has a confidence that makes a lot of men uncomfortable, and they do not like to see the brashness that if it comes from MJF or Jay White, they don't even think about it. But if it comes from Mercedes particularly, they really hate it that somebody like a Becky Lynch doesn't have. And
Right.
These fragile men are not just limited to fans. You see it in people who work for really prominent dirt sheets.
Yeah.
You know, really prominent people who work for dirt sheet websites who just kind of can't stand to see her think so highly of herself.
I agree. I mean,
Interesting.
Jonathan Coachman recently bashed her, and I really liked her response where she said, "I'm tired of these old guys attacking me." And she's absolutely right. This is coming from a lot of men that resent her for just being super confident and making a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I think that's really sad. So I think that's definitely one of the reasons. Another reason is the fact that she walked out of WWE. So I think some WWE fans hate the fact that she walked away from that company and hold it against her. But let me ask you this. When Stone Cold Steve Austin did that, where were you guys? Where was all the anger? You know, when Austin came back eventually, why were you guys cheering for him? I just think there's sexism for sure. And the third thing, which is the one that hurts the most, is the fact that she is Black. And I think that some people have a problem with a Black woman being as successful and confident and just revered as she is. Like, some of the arguments don't make any sense to me. Saying that she's not worth what she's getting paid, that is such a shitty thing. Let's say Eddie Kingston, who like some fans don't like that much because they think, oh, he doesn't look like a wrestler. It's, you know, like you wouldn't say he's not worth that kind of money. But when it comes to a woman, it's so easy to say that kind of crap because there's a sense of, I guess, inferiority. You know, like you feel like, oh crap, well, like she acts like she's superior to me and I don't like that, you know? So the racism thing, unfortunately, I think is one of the big reasons. It's really unfortunate, man.
Yeah, I think we just need to call a spade, right? She is a very attractive, hyper worker who doesn't present all this false modesty. She is really into herself and she has a lot of swagger, you know, and she is Black. If this is not you, I am not talking about you. So fucking chill out. Okay. But we're going to fucking say the quiet part out loud on this show is Mercedes Moné gets a lot of extra hate that other people don't get from a very particular kind of person And yeah, they make these comments. She's not worth what she's getting paid. Motherfucker, do you know what she's getting paid? Because I don't. And I think if you guys listen to this podcast, you know we're pretty fucking tuned into this kind of shit. If Mercedes' salary was just anywhere and anyone could see it, we would know. Okay? I don't know what she's getting paid. And furthermore, I don't know what AEW's talent budget is. I don't know what their books look like. We are not in a position to say if she's worth the money. We are not in a position to say if anyone is worth the money they're getting paid.
Yeah, like who are you to determine what a wrestler is worth? I don't think that's really fair. You know, it's like, I don't know, like back in the 90s, did The Undertaker deserve to make more money than Shawn Michaels? I don't know. You know what I mean? But that's not up to me to decide. I just think that it's just really annoying because Mercedes has worked so hard, you know, for a long time, a really long time. And she has put so many wrestlers over, and she just wants to make the women's division better. She wants women's wrestling to be treated as equally to men's wrestling globally. And even though like she's trying to do all these amazing things for women, you still have these people that just crap on her, like calling her Mercedes Hogan. Seriously?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. There's been tons of male wrestlers have had the same exact thing besides Hogan. You know, CM Punk, anybody? You don't think he had a pretty big say over his own creative? Like, that's the problem, is that we have one criticism that I hear of her specifically a lot is she's not as good as she thinks she is. And that's like not something that you ever hear said about Will Ospreay. That's not something that you ever hear said about MJF or Bryan Danielson or Kenny Omega. Like, that's not even something that I hear about other women. I only hear it about her. And that's the one that I hear the dirt sheet people say the most. Well, she's not really as good as she thinks she is. Now, they might be comparing her to Bull Nakano. They might be comparing her to Aja Kong. They might be comparing her to Manami Toyota. You know, does she have those kind of opponents to have those kinds of matches?
Exactly.
Bull Nakano had Manami Toyota. So they could have the kind of matches that All Japan Women's had. But Mercedes doesn't have opponents like that necessarily. Now, AEW Women's Division is very, very good. And I would say that Mercedes is going to have the best matches of her career under the current contract that she is under. But people want to invalidate this woman in a very particular way. And it's not everybody. And it's not everybody that doesn't like her. But what we're saying right now, guys, is we see it and we hear you. And we hear the subtext of what you're saying when you say it. So maybe you need to get more comfortable with your reasons for being uncomfortable.
Like, to me, she is the biggest female wrestler in the world, like biggest name, you know? And if you think Becky Lynch is a bigger name, that's fine. That's totally fine. But don't act as if Mercedes is basically just a mid-card talent that doesn't deserve any praise.
Yeah, and at the very least that she doesn't deserve what she's earned for herself. The thing about entertainment is people pay you what they think you're worth. That's how you get that kind of money. Okay? So her value to AEW was extremely high, and that's why she got paid so well. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. So I think that we have to get in touch with the misogyny that still exists within the wrestling space. And I think certain people who review wrestling need to get in touch with their own biases, because there is mainstream people in this forum in wrestling dirt sheets, reviewers, blah, 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 some whom I respect, who seem to have some kind of nagging issue with Mercedes Moné that's very particular to her. We're tired of you guys. You're boring. You have nothing to contribute to the conversation. And if anything, you're kind of showing us how much we don't want to have anything to do with you.
Well said.
going to talk about the AEW tag team division. The tag team division has been criticized the last couple years.
Yeah, with good reason.
Yeah, with good reason. It has definitely seen a dip. The division seems largely centered around the Young Bucks and FTR. And it's kind of taken the place of the women's division, where the only tag teams that really get on the show are the people who have the belts.
Yeah.
Not really ideal, you know? Not really ideal. And that couldn't be clearer this week, because it's heavily rumored and seems to be imminent that the Lucha Bros are leaving AEW and going to WWE, which,
Ooh.
yeah, is a very sad thing. I'm happy for them if they're happy. But where does that leave us with the AEW tag division? Yikes. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. So I think we should probably explore a few theories onto why that might be. Did adding the trios division make things worse for tag teams?
I think so.
That's one theory I have. All of a sudden you had teams like the Lucha Bros were now Death Triangle, and they were competing for the trios titles. Young Bucks were in the Elite competing with Kenny for the trios titles. Teams that generally were known as tag teams like the Guns now were competing for the trios titles instead.
Best friends with Orange.
Best friends. You know, you had that. But we've also lost a fair amount of tag teams that were kind of bigger parts of the tag division back in the day. You know, you had Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, disbanded as a tag team before Santana even left. And then we've also lost Best Friends. Trent and Chuck were a team that I always felt should have gotten a tag title run.
Yes, they should have.
Never did. I thought Santana and Ortiz should have gotten a tag title run. And it seemed like there was some drama with Santana and Ortiz that kept them from having a tag title run, which is really too bad. So that's really drained a lot of the tag division. And the only other tag team that's really had any focus outside of the Bucks and FTR is the Acclaimed. And they were stuck in the trios division with Billy Gunn for like 8 months, you know? So it's just been kind of a mess. There hasn't been a lot of direction to the tag division. You know, you've had these kind of one-off tag teams like Hobbs and Takeshita that clearly aren't built to last. You know, I don't think those kind of teams are the answer. I really don't. Obviously, you know, Ricky Starks and Big Bill, you know, they're a fun tag team, but they didn't really have any staying power. So rather than dwell on what's wrong, let's figure out what we could do to immediately help the tag division. And one thing that's not in my notes, but I just want to get in there before I forget. The gates of agony are right there.
Right.
The gates of agony are right there.
Right, yeah.
They are unlike any other team that you have on the main roster. There's no other team like them. If you wanted to have a team squash FTR now, instead of Ricky Starks and Big Bill, I would have the Gates of Agony do it.
Agreed.
These guys are great. They have improved so much. They have shown that they are hungry and willing to do whatever it takes to get to that next level. And I think they have looked stellar this year. Stellar. I really don't even see a point in them being with Brian Cage anymore. Particularly if you're not going to just have them run at the trios titles, which, you know what? Don't do that. Just don't do that. If you want to put together makeshift tag teams, do that with the trios division. Okay? I think the trios division would be a lot better if you use that for mid-carders without a clear individual direction.
Yep.
To get them on TV and get 6 of them on TV at a time. You know, make the trios titles. To me, they will never be as important as the tag titles. Not to me personally. I am an American, so I've grown up with the idea that tag team wrestling is more important than trios wrestling. And that's just how I see it. Joshi, thoughts on this?
I completely agree with you. The tag team division was the strongest part of AEW the first few years, and now it's one of the weak. It's really weird to see.
The weakest.
Yeah. To see it go downhill like this. I'm not saying that it's terrible, but it could be so much better. And I completely agree with you regarding the trios division. Just put 3 wrestlers together that don't really have anything else to do, like 3 mid-carders, and use the division, the trios division for that. I mean, when it comes to House of Black, they're a trio.
Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, unless Malachi Black leaves, then I guess Matthews and King, they could form a tag team, but it looks like Malachi Black's going to be there for a while. So I understand them being a trio. It's like they started off that way. And, you know, I mean, obviously Malachi was first and he was alone, but he wasn't a singles wrestler for a very long time, right? So, I mean, for the most part, they've been a trios. So it makes sense. So yeah, like, I just think it's a bummer, you know, even looking at this, bill to All In, I don't even understand what's going on. Like,
I don't either.
on the one, I'm so confused. Like, I thought it would be Bucks versus the Acclaim, but now it looks like FTR is in the mix. And I'm just kind of over it. You know, like last year we got FTR versus the Bucks at All In. I didn't really want to see them in the same ring again.
Well, and they just did it at Revolution as well.
And they just did it at Revolution.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they're planning with that. It's very, very confusing. And to be honest, the Young Bucks have hardly defended the tag belts.
Yeah, and I think that's partly a gimmick. I mean, I think it's to make you hate them, but I think it is starting to stunt the tag team division to a certain degree.
It is.
You know, MJF tried the same thing as the world champion last year, and they had to make him start wrestling more, not just on pay-per-view, but wrestle more. You know, in his first promo, the one where he knocked Regal out with a
Yes.
or with the ring, you know, he said, like, I'm only going to defend this belt on pay-per-view. You have to pay to see me wrestle. And over time, he had to defend it more because it started to stunt the title division. And so, you know, I think the trios titles are fine to have. I just, one, why the fuck do you have 2 trios titles?
Right. I don't understand that. Yeah.
You know, what would have been the harm of fucking Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs winning the unified trios titles for a week or 2? Because I only think they're going to hold them while they're in Arlington doing this summer series anyway. So, you know, clearly it seems like they're building up something with the patriarchy and the House of Black and the Bang Bang Gang for All In. But I don't know what it is. I'm just very confused by it. And there just isn't a lot of heat behind it. I think the trios titles really should be the titles that get passed around a little more. The tag titles can be a little more of a legacy title. And then, you know, much like the world titles are, you know, those are legacy titles. But getting back to the, you know, to the tag division, I think another answer is right there, right in front of you. Push Top Flight. They are not an ROH tag team. Okay. I don't care about the ROH tag titles. Right. I want to see Top Flight in AEW at the top of the tag team division. They're ready for it. I think this addition of Layla Gray has been really cool. To kind of make the flight, you know, the airplane gimmick kind of work. I think their promos are kind of corny with all the puns, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. But Darius has been healthy for a while now. Layla Gray has been awesome. I think it was the last little touch they needed. But push these guys. They're ready for it. Come on.
Let's go already.
Let's do
Seriously.
it. Another thing they can do. What about Aussie Open? What happens when Mark Davis comes back? Is Mark Davis coming back? The guy's been out 10 months now. I thought he broke his wrist or something. But that was at Wrestle Dream. I was there when it happened. Okay? Against FTR. Can Kyle Fletcher actually really be a part of Aussie Open anyway? To me, he seems like kind of a star on his own now.
He does.
It's hard to imagine him being in Aussie Open these days. But there's no doubt to me that if he was, Aussie Open would be a huge part of the tag division. And it seems like Mark Davis's injury really set that division back. I think Aussie Open would have been pushed pretty hard. It seemed Tony was pretty into them. You know, it remains to be seen. I do think there is going to be a United Empire in AEW at some point, and Aussie Open makes a lot of sense for that. So hopefully Mark Davis maybe makes a comeback at All In, you know?
That'd be great. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I am a big Private Party fan, but I do think Mark Quinn needs to stay healthy for a while before they can get a big push. And honestly, I really hate to be this guy, but Mark Quinn hasn't quite been up to par in the ring yet. He moves, to me, I feel like it's probably an abundance of caution on his part. He doesn't want to get hurt again. But, you know, like seeing him run the ropes, like he kind of just jogs. Like it doesn't, he's not moving at high speed a lot of the time. And I like Mark Quinn. I am not a wrestler. He could kick my ass. I am in no way saying that he's not good. I just think he's not quite all the way back yet. And he needs to get there. And then finally, Dark Order. At least Silver and Reynolds, come on. Like,
yeah, I agree. They're a
these
good
guys
tag team.
They're a great tag team. And they have incredible tag team moves. Like, there are people there that you can do this with, that you could have putting on really great matches. You know, a while ago, we were talking about a women's tag team division. Now we just need a tag team division of any kind to get its ass off the ground. Joshi, any more thoughts on this one?
Well, I Blade Daily, this is part of the reason why I'm not too keen on a women's tag team division. I might be the minority here, but from what I've seen in other promotions, people just don't know how to book the freaking women's tag division. They just don't, you know, and I don't know if AEW is going to do a better job. You look at the men's tag team division right now, it's at its weak point. How the heck are you going to get a women's division right? Like a women's tag team division, I mean. So I don't think they should do that anytime soon because I personally don't see it working.
Yeah.
And also, since you brought up some tag teams that could get a big push, I think you're absolutely right about Gates of Agony. They're incredible. Why not use them more? Mm-hmm. It's a shame that Stu Grayson isn't in AEW anymore because you could have formed a tag team with Evil Uno again, but what can you do? You have the Outrunners. That could be fun.
Oh, yeah, you have the Outrunners. Right.
Yeah, they could be fun. I mean, they're organically getting over. So maybe eventually make them, move them to the AEW roster, MXM collection, potentially.
Yes. Oh, my God, I can't believe I forgot them.
The fans seem to be reacting to them very well. So there are things that they can do, but they need to act pretty fast. I don't think they should keep lingering because if this continues, these tag teams that sign with AEW because of their tag team division might not stick around, you know, and you don't want that to happen. So look, I get it. I'm as a huge fan of female, of women's wrestling, I'm so happy that they've done a better job with the women's division. I really am. But I do love tag team wrestling, and it's just, it just hasn't been that interesting. That division has not. I can't even remember the last time I really loved a men's tag match. It's probably a while ago.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I think it was Jay White and Juice versus FTR.
Last year, yeah.
That was a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was the last memorable one.
There must be some kind of logic to the things we used to hate on because Vince took it to such extremes.
Yeah.
But like, there must be some kind of logic to what he was doing because AEW is doing more of that, where it's like two singles wrestlers that you really like are in a tag team match more often than an actual tag team.
That's the problem.
That you want to see. And that devalues the tag division a lot.
It does. I hate it.
I haven't lost faith in the power of tag team wrestling whatsoever. I think there's a lot they can do to change that. But, right now, the tag division's kind of slim pickings. But MXM Collection, I think, is a huge addition. And they wrestled FTR in Collision and already showed they can go. And they are such great characters already. They have star written all over them. They will be tag champions within the year. Absolutely. And also you have the Kingdom. You have the Kingdom, who I think is a really, really good tag team. You could have them on the AEW main roster, instead of just walking around with the ROH tag titles all the time. You could have them. And, you also have the infantry. You have these other teams that are in ROH right now
yeah.
that are good. They're really good teams. They just, they need to be on AEW television, and AEW and ROH need to be more separate.
Exactly.
I think that's as clear as we could possibly be about that. There's a day that's coming where I want to see, I go to the roster page on AEW's website, and there's a Ring of Honor section. There's an AEW section,
That's what I'm hoping for.
Me too. All right, sister. Well, that's it for another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. Please review us on the iTunes store or on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts and can review them. Give us 5 stars. We're not making any money off this goddamn thing. We just want to fucking, have a good time, grow this community. Reviews help people find us in the algorithm. The more we get reviewed, the more we get pushed out there. The better the review, the better the push. So that's the way the game is played, my friends. But for now, I'm Blade Daly.
I'm Joshi G. Praise be.
Praise be. Pro Wrestling forever. Get the hell out of here, Jack Perry!